before I get started, I want to warn you that my daughter Julia, who's sitting back over there, she's 9 years old. She will outbid you tonight on anything that you have your heart set on, so you better keep your eye on that, because she's quite a force, and she's kind of gunning for a surfboard tonight. So keep an eye on that kid over there. It's a great honor to be here with you, and my intention is to honor you and to say thank you for what you all do for this little blue planet that we get to live on. That's so unusual. Turns out this place we call home, it's weird. It's a weird place. It's unique in our universe. There's nothing quite like it as far as we know. And if you may have noticed on your table there's a shell, and in that shell there's a blue marble. I want to make sure you put that in your hand right now, if you haven't already. Hopefully it's still there. If anybody has eaten theirs, we can get you another one. That blue marble is just a simple token of our gratitude for your commitment to this organization. And through your commitment to this organization, your commitment to our ocean and our waterways and our home, which is mostly, don't drop them, please. Don't drop your marble. Drop the planet. So I want to start out by asking you a pretty simple question. Where were you? If Ben is driving my slides, where were you when you fell deeply in love with nature? Where were you? Were you standing in water? Were you face to face with wild nature? Were you walking through a forest? Were you perhaps watching the interaction between one animal and another? Perhaps a mother and its pup? Were you on the bow, where everybody goes when this happens? Everybody goes to the bow, and nobody wants it to end. Is that where you were? Were you immersed, completely immersed in nature? Whether it was underwater or in a forest, but completely immersed. And did you feel like the best version of you ever? I did. This is one of those moments for me when I was a kid. I was about, that marble just rolled out the door. You can get it if you want. I was about 11 years old. This is in Wyoming. And every time I look at this photo, I can feel the grass between my toes. And I can taste the trout. And I can hear the howling wolves that we listen to at night in our tents. That moment is permanently part of my neurons. I can feel it, I can taste it, I can hear it, and it's part of who I am. And I feel very fortunate to have had that experience. But I was in love with sea turtles, and I didn't have a picture of sea turtles and myself to show you. So this is the best I could do. Looked pretty good for an 11-year-old, huh? I had this strange fascination with turtles. I can't quite explain it, even to this day, why turtles kept me up at night, why turtles invaded my dreams, we would go to the Chesapeake Bay. I grew up on the East Coast. We'd go to the Chesapeake Bay and we'd catch snapping turtles. And then we'd get them in our arms and we'd paint numbers on their shells and we'd put them back in the bay. And then sometimes we'd capture them again. And some of those turtles had numbers on their backs already, and some of them were clean, new. And then we would do simple algebra, not knowing that it was called algebra. And we'd figure out, más o menos, how many turtles are in the Chesapeake Bay. Now, there are all kinds of problems with our methodology that I now know, but at 11 years old, it was fun. It was play. It was a game. It was also math. It was also algebra. It was also learning. But I love that, and I would dream about catching turtles and painting numbers on their shells and wondering about where they went. And I got to be reminded of that today at Holly's house with her son, Alec, who is kind of a fellow near and dear math geek. And we talked math, and I thought about how math was part of my falling in love with nature, as it is his falling in love with nature through origami. But connecting that, making that part of who you are, it made me a turtle geek from a very young age. And so I went on, and I see turtles everywhere, and I see turtles sometimes where there aren't, in fact, turtles. And, you know, in a group like this, there are a couple of you, frankly, who look a little bit turtly, and I won't point you out because I think you know who you are, and I've been told from time to time by people like my wife that sometimes I look like a turtle, so it's not such a bad thing. But I love turtles so much. I see them everywhere, and I've spent my life fighting for them because I love them. Not only fighting for them, but studying them. And our team has published dozens upon dozens of peer-reviewed research articles. And we've built movements, and we've built projects, and we've put baby turtles into the ocean, and we've gotten turtles out of harm's way in fishing nets and plastic pollution, and convinced turtle hunters to not hunt the turtles, rather to protect them. And through that, through this global sea turtle movement that I find myself a part of, turtles are making a comeback. I'm here to say it's not done, but turtles are getting the love they need, and we're seeing in places around the world like Hawaii and Baja and Costa Rica, some of the turtle populations on the rise. And at the base of that is what? Science. But under the science is what? Love. And some little kids. Thank you. And some little kids that fell in love with nature and themselves. People like us. Right? People who like us, who love the way we feel when we're out there on the water. When we're out there looking in the eyes of these wild animals. And I remember as a grad student trying to reconcile that. Really, you give out the blue marbles with the hope. This is Linda. This is her blue marble. Okay, please hold on to your blue marble. I remember as a grad student being told, young man, keep the human stuff, you know, on the side. Do that on your own time. And I remember thinking, wow, you know, how is it that the human brain is not part of ecology? How is it that we're not bringing the science, seriously. I'm gonna take that as an applause, because it makes me feel better. How is it that the science of our minds is not part of the science of taking care of nature? When did that divide happen? Why is it split? And what I've begun to understand is that this is our science. How you feel about nature, about your ocean, about those animals that fire you up, that is my science. I'm going in deep into that. And it turns out it is the hardest science in the room. My PhD's in evolutionary biology and wildlife ecology. Neuroscience makes that look like kindergarten. The feelings you feel about nature, the science behind that is the hardest science in the room. That's the point I want to make, and I'll come back to that. So we used to understand the human brain as a black box. If you wanted to study what was going on in the brain, well, you could stimulate it and you could measure the response. But you didn't really know what was going on inside. And the way we understood what was going on inside is we took brains out of skulls and we looked at them post-mortem. Right, kind of gnarly, but that was the way it was done. Neuroscience was based on dead brains. You didn't think you were going to talk about dead brains tonight, did you? So what we can do now is we can look inside that box. We can understand the neuroscience of love. We can understand the role of serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine in those levers that make us feel what we call love. Now, I'm going to warn you, there's a time and a place to talk about serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, and love. My wife reminds me that it isn't always the most romantic topic. So sometimes you don't really want to bring the neuroscience when things are getting kind of hot and heavy and romantic, right? I find it very sexy, personally. If my wife was laying down equations and conversation about dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, in that moment, I would be all in. She isn't. So I just wanted to give you that warning. It doesn't always connect. So there's a time and a place that you talk about this stuff. But it's true, that feeling that you get, if you feel it, something changed in your brain. And that something is knowable by science. All right? That's the basic point. We are now able to open that black box and look inside. We're able to ask questions that we were never able to ask about how you feel and why. It's this field that's blowing open. It's the golden age of neuroscience right now, and we are living in it. And my point is, let's invite those neuroscientists over to the Marine Institute. Let's invite them to the Marine Lab. Let's invite them to speak to Channelkeepers. Let's talk about this thing that drives every single one of us to be here tonight, to work their entire lives to protect the ocean. Now there's this one molecule called oxytocin that gets a lot of attention. And it's the, click that, it's the trust neurotransmitter. It's implicated in trust and love and those feelings of connection. And oxytocin is very important in mammals. Some people feel about oxytocin the way I feel about sea turtles. Oxytocin is getting a lot of love, getting a lot of attention. And some people have even taken the leap and tattooed oxytocin on their backs. I've seen people out in the lineup in Hawaii with turtle tattoos on their back. Respect. Serious respect for this guy. What the heck? That is some serious oxytocin love represented through tattoo art. Aside. So this is the first generation that has a decent user's guide to the human brain. Think about that. This is the first generation, the decent user's guide to the human brain. We've all got one. Every school kid has one. Most of us have one, I guess. I was looking at you. You were giving me that, yeah, well. That's a profound statement. A user's guide to the human brain. Who should own the user's guide to the human brain? Every single one of us. What should we do with that user's guide? We should live better. We should live on a healthy planet. We should live well. We should take care of those we love. We should take care of the place we love. If we don't embrace this user's guide, the people who do will have an edge. Some people call that neuromarketing or neuropoliticking, right? It's happening. Frankly, politicians hire neuroscientists. Coca-Cola has a neuroscience lab. Super Bowl ads go through a neuroscience lab before you see them. Why? Because it makes them better at what they do. Does the ocean have a neuroscience lab? Not yet. Had a conversation tonight that may lead to that here in Santa Barbara. The ocean needs the best neuroscience labs. So we talk, as ecologists, we talk about trophic cascades. That's where you restore the top predator, and it leads through this cascade where it helps to restore the prey help restore their prey, and the plants they eat. It's called a trophic cascade. It's a whole book about trophic cascades, papers everywhere about trophic cascades. We talk a lot about ecosystem services. What do we get? What are the monetary benefits from healthy ecosystems? Jobs, the economy, production. How much would it cost to replace that? A lot. But that is not enough. What I want to do is add to that. And what I want to add to that are the neurologic cascades. When you restore a river, and the men and women and kids go and enjoy that river, and that makes their day. That makes their day great. They go home and they have a productive evening. They have creative thoughts. They feel good. They love their families. The video that we saw earlier was full of that. Every single person who spoke about here was talking about that neurologic cascade that they feel and they experience that makes them the best version of themselves, which then allows them to go out into our communities and make these better communities. And the emotional and cognitive benefits that come from healthy water, do not forget those. Put those in your spreadsheets, put those in your proposals, put those in your reports. If you don't know how to quantify them, put some words in there to hold the space. Because the emotional and cognitive benefits, along with the economic, the jobs, the biodiversity, the productivity of these places, are incredibly important. And we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Think about that place where you fell deeply in love with the ocean, with the wild, with nature. You fell in love with it and yourself. That's what happened. It was the best version of yourself. That's what happens. That is incredibly valuable. That's what Channelkeeper is fighting for. In addition to all of the other things that you'll find on the website, the cognitive and emotional benefits of healthy water. I call this whole conversation neuroconservation. Neuroscience meets conservation biology. Neuroconservation, nifty word. Don't forget it. Your kids will get a PhD in neuroconservation if they're smart and lucky here at UC Santa Barbara. So think about it. Your ocean, your creeks, your rivers, your nature is medicine. It's the best medicine we have. Before I came here with my daughter, I was with a group of people up in Santa Cruz. They're veterans, mostly men, who came back from Iraq and Afghanistan, missing arms and legs, suffering from post-traumatic stress. and participating in something called Operation Surf. The ocean is at least part of their medicine. Learning to surf, getting up on a board for the first time, experiencing that feeling for the first time, has given them, some of them, a reason to live. A reason to go back and fight for their own health. It works. It's not a silver bullet. It's not an either or. Not suggesting give up your pharmaceuticals and go surf. I guess I did suggest that. What I'm saying is both. Maybe you can reduce your dosage and surf more, or paddle down your river. One young man, Bobby Lane, showed up. His plan was to learn to surf, check it off his list, and go home and kill himself. That was his plan. He was in a rough spot. He lived in Texas. He got to Santa Cruz, got on a board, third time, stood up. As he was standing up, surfing Cowles, he thought to himself, this is awesome. I'm awesome. This planet is great. I didn't know this was here. I'm a surfer. I love the ocean. And I'm not gonna stop. That was last year. This year I had dinner with him. He's a leader, he's a champion, and guess what? He's an ocean protector. He wants to clean up the plastic in the ocean. You know why? Because it saved his life. It's his medicine. He was on 15 different drugs. Now he's on 2. One for his allergies and one for something else not related to his stress. I can't remember what it is. That's Bobby Lane from Texas. 3 tours in Iraq. So I've got this book coming out, and I just want to remind you that it's good. It's not out yet. It releases in London in June, and then in the US in July. And I literally am halfway through the copy edits. Literally tonight I will be finishing writing this book. But I'm so excited to share it. And if I could give away the book, just give it away for free, I'm going to try to do that, because it's about this conversation. It's about you. It's about Channelkeepers. It's about restoring our water so that we can help people heal. So we can all be the best version of ourselves, so that our lakes and our rivers and our ponds and our creeks and our massive oceans are healthy. Because that's really good for us, isn't it? Back to sea turtles quickly. Chuy Lucero, Jesus Lucero. I met this guy when I started studying sea turtles in Baja, and everybody said, too late for turtles, they're toast, they're gone, skip it. Chuy Lucero is a turtle hunter, grew up hunting and eating sea turtles. I remember going back to my graduate committee and saying, well, there are these guys, and they have so much dignity, and I think there's something there. And I got the eyeball rolls, and I got the advice to, you know, what are you talking about? Skip that stuff. You need to do turtle genetics and turtle migration. And I said, well, this is it. This is the future. These men and women and their relationship with these animals is what is going to matter. The science, we got stacks of it now. We've published dozens and hundreds of papers. And our students have won awards. One of our students is a Pew Fellow right now, Hoyt Peckham. Very proud of him. But that pile of science does not save turtles by itself. And the policy and laws don't either. You need people who are deeply committed. People like Chuy Lucero, and he released his first baby sea turtle into the ocean. It changed his life. Weirdest thing in the world. Here's a guy who grew up eating and hunting sea turtles, puts a baby sea turtle in the world and goes, whew, wow, never did that before. That was awesome. I got to help these animals. And we've been working together for 20 years. And I hope someday you get to meet him. If you ever go to Baja, look up Don Jesus Lucero, tremendous man. Yes. So here's a prediction, and I'm going to leave you with this. In the next year, I think our colleagues, our neuroscience colleagues, will find that when we look at the ocean, when we look at the water that we love, that it lights up our brain much in the same way that looking at the face of those we love lights up our brain. Does that make sense? Does that feel right? Watch for that science. I'm giving you a little inside scoop, and I'm kind of talking out of school because I have an inside line on some of the research that's coming down the line, and I'm kind of not supposed to talk about it publicly. I just did. When you look at the face of somebody you love, that was Julia, and this is Grace. These are my daughters. And when you haven't, particularly if you haven't seen them for a while, when you walk in the door and see that person that you dearly miss, that you love so much, and you see their face, you know that feeling? It's everything. It makes you feel connected and at home and alive. That's the way I also feel when I've been away from the water for a long time. You come over the hill, Highway 17 in Santa Cruz, and you go, there it is, Pacific Ocean, that's my home. You have that feeling. If you have that feeling, remember, something changed in your brain. If something changed in your brain, we scientists would love to study it. That's what's going on. That is valuable. That is why we're here. That feeling that I get with turtles, that feeling that I love to share with anybody who's willing to go to the beach and put a baby turtle in their hands and take it to the water and release it. I live vicariously through every person that comes with us and puts a baby turtle in the ocean, because it feels so good to look in the eyes of these animals and put them in the water. So what I want to say to you, to the board, channel keepers, and especially to the staff, don't be afraid to talk about how much you love your ocean. Don't be afraid to talk about how much you love your tide pools and the animals that live in your ocean. Don't be afraid to talk about the way it makes you feel, because the neuroscientists got your back. We got you covered. You want the citations? I will bring a wheelbarrow full, and I'll dump them on the doorstep of anybody who resists this conversation. This is important. This is who we are. This is what we're fighting for. It's why we're in this room. It's why we're supporting this organization, because they are taking care of the biodiversity. They're taking care of the water quality, but they're taking care of your nostalgia. They're taking care of the future memories of your children. They're taking care of your creativity and your stress reduction. How much is that worth? Everything I have, that's how much it's worth. So you have a little gift on your table, a blue marble. And if you can grab that and hold it up, that, and not drop it. I'll give you a second to find it. That's what we look like right now from a million miles away. If you could fly a million miles away and turn around and look back on where we are, that's what we look like. you'll notice two things. We're small and we're blue, which makes us quite unique in this universe, the blue part, which means that everything we do matters. Every decision you make matters. It does. We're a small blue planet covered with water. Every decision you make matters. And I want you to take your blue marble and put it someplace safe, and then do what I just did. These are gifts to you to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for my daughter Julia and Grace and Dana, for your support for this great organization. Take your blue marble and pass it on to somebody that you want to say thank you to. I know there's somebody that you need to say thank you to, that you maybe never said thank you to, that's just waiting for you to say thank you. I want you to take your blue marble, I want you to walk up to them and put it in their hands and explain it in any way you feel like explaining it. And I guarantee you'll make their day. You may make their week or their month, perhaps their year, and it'll be a nice moment. And that's the thing about these brains that we have. We have the ability to shift the conversation. We have the ability to share these emotions. Gratitude is one of them, which we don't use enough. We'd like to talk about fear. We use guilt a lot. We use a lot of information, a lot of data. But thank you is always available as well. So thank you for coming tonight, for supporting this incredible organization. Thank you, the staff and the board of Channelkeepers, for, man, just knocking it out. That was an impressive lineup of accolades for the year, Kira. Truly, nice work. Imagine a world without this organization and all of their peer organizations. Don't want to. I want an organization that's strong. I want a world full of keepers.
Keepers!
Yes. So, take your blue marble, share it well, say thank you like you mean it, and thanks a lot for inviting me to talk to you tonight.